And welcome back. Former baseball star Fred McGriff is the father of former Jesuit star football player Eric McGriff and current Tampa Prep volleyball star Erica. In an interview that originally was shown only on our website at www.8primesports.com, I sat down with Fred to talk about his days at Jefferson High School. Did you ever think about playing football when you were in high school?
A little bit. The football coach, he kept trying, "Oh, Fred, come on, man, we can get you on the line. You know, you can help us out." But I'm like, I don't think so, Coach. I think I'm going to stick with baseball.
How good was Jefferson's team back then when you were playing?
Well, back then we kind of struggled. We had a couple of 0-11 years, and so that's why most guys really didn't want to play. And then finally we had a guy named Ernie Sims, who he went on. His sons played at Florida State, and he plays with the Detroit Lions. And, so he's played running back, and he started coming along, and next thing you know, we got pretty decent.
Yeah, a little more career longevity in baseball, too, obviously.
I believe it.
Let's talk about Eric a little bit because, you know, I was a star at Jesuit and now playing at the University of Kansas right now. From a parent standpoint, was it tough to say, watch him go through everything that you have to go through physically to play football?
It was awfully tough because, I mean, just watching football every Sunday, you seeing guys get beat up all the time. And myself being an ex-baseball player, you're like, son, you know, football's great, but if I was you, I'd play a little baseball. So that makes it tough. But he, you know, he was having a good time, and he started enjoying. He started having some success, and so I'm like, go for it. You know, I don't want to force you to try to play baseball. Just have some fun and enjoy it. And he was able to play at Jesuit, and he had an awesome time there, and made some good friends.
This is always kind of an interesting thing because as a parent, it's hard to turn your child over to somebody and trust them. And especially with you being as successful in sports as you have been, was that difficult for you to let them go and say, okay, now you've got to listen to what this guy's saying?
Yeah, it's awfully tough. You know, but you tell yourself, okay, I've tried to prepare him for just life, and it comes a time when, okay, now it's time to go on your own. I tell myself each day, because now that he's up in Kansas, it's a 2.5-hour flight, and even if he was playing at Florida State or whatever, I mean, you got to drive 4 hours. So it's almost about the same, even though it's a little bit further than Florida State. At the end of the day, it's still right there. And once they're gone, I mean, you can get in trouble in Kansas just as well as you can at Florida State.
What was it like the first time you saw him play high school football?
Well, I tried to stay out of the way. Because usually you're there and everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's Fred McGriff's son, you know, so you try to, like, stay out of the way and just let him enjoy his time of playing ball and so forth. And, you know, you sit in the stands and you're like, please catch this ball. if it's a punt return or a kickoff, you know, you're like, please, come on, son, catch it. Because you got the people in the stands like, you see he missed that ball, man. He should have just let it bounce.
Yeah, a lot of comments that you hear as a parent.
So you're like, okay, I just got to stay out of the way and not get into it.
What advice would you give to parents who maybe they've kind of coached their sons or coached their daughters from the time they were 5 up until they were 14? What would you tell them when it's okay, now it's time for you to listen to high school coaches? Would you advise them to step back, or how much would you say to stay involved?
Yeah, I think step back in the sense of letting the coach their son, but in the sense where if you're trying to get your son a scholarship, you more got to be proactive. Because sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, man, if I was coaching high school baseball, and I can't even count the number of colleges it is out there with Division I, AA, AAA, whatever. And if I'm a coach, where do I start calling? Like, do I call this school for your son or that school for your son? Because I'm always hearing like, oh, that coach did nothing for my kid, man. I cannot believe, you know, my son, and he did nothing. But it's tough. So I think as a parent, if your son likes a few schools, you got to try to get him the opportunity to go visit this school, that school, go to little camps and so forth, and get a little video of him and then start sending it out. And it's tough.
Yeah, we're going to throw some video right here. And just kind of tell me, from your perspective, talking about recruiting, that's a good way to kind of get into this. In terms of coaches calling, in terms of Eric dealing with the whole process, what was that like for him and also for you?
Well, you know, it was a big-time learning experience for me because, you know, you start getting all these letters in the mail from different universities, and I found myself, I was a kid again because I started opening them up. You know, I'm like, let me see if this coach was really serious, or let me check out his signature. And see if he signed it, or it was
just rubber stamped it or something.
So I started reading the letters, and then you're like, okay, Now, this coach is serious, you know, because it was a personal written letter, and then these guys, they're not serious. And I even laugh now because now I get a couple of letters to the house now. Right?
Oh, really? Even now? It's been gone for months. That's unbelievable.
So, you know, so I start reading the letters and everything, and then I would show my son this and that, and he was getting letters at the school, and I would start talking to the coach, and the coach was saying, yeah, such and such team wants some film of him, or they want to come by and check him out. And so it's a tough process because, like, I tell myself, like, my son, he played wide receiver. And, like, the three big schools here in Florida, I mean, for the most part, they're going to sign maybe 1 or 2 wide receivers at the most.
Right.
You know, every year. It just depends. Like this year, Miami didn't sign any wide receivers.
Exactly.
You know, so mainly, and you tell yourself, okay, now is my son one of the top 4 or 5 receivers in the state? You know, being honest, probably not. You know what I mean? So then you have to start like, okay, let me try to maneuver this and try to work this.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Kansas is giving me an opportunity.
That's an interesting point you kind of make, going back to touching on, you know, watching in the stands and knowing that it's, you know, Fred McGriff's son out there. How tough was it for him, and how tough for your daughter Erica, who's playing volleyball as well? Volleyball started to be the children of a famous father.
Yeah, it's tough because I think it's a lot easier for my daughter because she's a girl, and so they don't really say, okay, she should be playing softball or baseball, whatever. But with my son, I was like, oh, dude, you know, you're not playing ball. You know, your dad played ball and so forth. But you just gotta let them just be themselves, and if they want to play, because I mean, it's, you know, when I look back now, millions of people would love opportunity just to play in the big leagues. It's tough. You know, a lot of things got to go right. I was blessed. Why? I don't know, but I was. But so, you know, going through the minors, so many things can go wrong, and just earn trouble or need trouble. Just it's very tough. So myself, personally, I was like, man, you know, I want my son to try to get a education,
Right.
And then whatever comes after that, okay, let's do it. But first, let's try to get education.
Well, a good way to end it. Fred, thanks again for joining me. And as always, my friend, we'll meet up on the golf course sometime soon. By the way, Eric McGriff just completed his freshman season at Kansas and should have a chance to play next year under new KU head football coach Turner Gill. Now, coming up, we'll have our weekly discussion about how you can be a part of our team via the internet, and Marissa Richmond is going to recap her story on Hillsborough boys basketball coach Stephanie Crawford. We'll be right back.